It's Cole from DriveCheck, a Card 5 Vanguard podcast slash YouTube channel. And today we're here with the deck prowl. It's Saturday morning. I just woke up, and then it was time to talk about Nightrose. Let's get my tea and my mouse away. I can still see it. Ugh. Alright, so first off, we're going to start with our starter. I'm using Grenache because this is almost full max rarity. SP Grenache. Like I said, most of this deck is SP. So, next is for Nightrose. Vampire Princess of Nightfog Nightrose. And she's really good because she allows you to beef up all your units. So, whether they attack or boost, they get an extra 5k. Then they retire themselves at the end of the turn, or at the end of that battle, which is really good against a lot of matchups because clans like Narukami, cards that need to retire things on your opponent's board, this is very good against. It's not so good against Blade Master, though. Gotta keep that in mind. And then she has another ability where you can, when she attacks, you counterblast one and you call a column. So one in the front, one in the back. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, then you get an extra 10k when she's compared to Cocytus, where Cocytus needed... He just relied on himself, but this is more of a rearguard. Centric deck, whatever. Alright, and then we have Dragon, Undead Skull Dragon. This is your beater. He's almost always going to be your late game beater. I say late game specifically because he gets 2,000 power for every card in your drop zone. So I just count up my drop zone and let it multiply by 2. And that's how much power I get. But his downside is you can't normal call it, and normally that's okay. But like you can't even put it down on the guard circle in order to I'm gonna guard with this grade 3. Oh, it's no shield, but I can still discard it because that's considering you're normal calling it to the guard circle, so you can't do that. And then at the end of the battle that he attacked, he retires, which Nightrose tells him to do that anyway, so that's totally fine. So I'm playing 3 there. 4 is just a little bit too much. You never want to ride him. Oh my goodness. Am I dying? Well, I mean, I don't know. But yeah, so we're playing with 3 of those because you want 2. 2 is your main goal. You want 2 on the field at a time, and I'll show you why when we get a little later on. But 2 on the field is really good, and we're running 3 in case one gets damaged, basically. Then we're running 2 Ghostie Leader Beatrice. This card is so good. I know a lot of people have said it, but she opens up so many more avenues that the deck can go through. When we get to the combos, you'll see, like, not only is she a cheaper extender, she also helps me get things out of my soul, which is actually pretty important, especially when we get to the grade 2s. And the fact that if I need to, which I have done, I can swap my play style to be more of her focus, which, by the way, she has an ability on the Vanguard or Rearguard circle when she's called. So from hand, from the drop, or from wherever, you can Soul Blast 1 and call a unit not named her from your drop zone. So I can call anything for a Soul Blast 1 that's not named her, but you don't really want to call her, so it's fine. That's really good. So as far as I know, Grand Blue's calling, when it calls another card from the drop zone, has always been Counterblast restricted. So like Counterblast 1 or Counterblast 2. So now having a Soul Blast 1, in order to call that, it opens up so many things. Because the way to play against Nightrose is to Counterblast deny her. Because she normally needs 2 in order to like pop off, basically. So now she only needs 1. And now, when we'll get to the next card, it's really easy to just get the 1 damage, depending on how your opponent plays. So, right, second ability, continuous. On the Vanguard circle, all of your units with Ghostie in their card name on the Rearguard circle and Guardian circle get intercept and power/shield 5,000, which is really, really good because we're playing a lot of Ghosties in this deck. Because Ghosties, just in general, there's some really good ones that help with Nightrose, but also there's just some really solid Ghostie support. So they get a little tankier with the shields. They get a little stronger too. So they have the same amount of power between Nightrose and Beatrice. The only thing is Beatrice only affects Ghosties. So that's kind of important. And then her second ability, if you're stuck on with her on the Vanguard, you can actually do some multi-attacking. So what she says is when a unit is retired by card effect, by a card ability, during your turn you can counterblast 1 and call a Ghostie unit with a grade 1 less than what was retired. So basically you would do a Skull Dragon, and then you could Skull Dragon retires himself, and then you can call a grade 2 Ghostie, which we'll get to in a second. And then that's not once per turn, so then that grade 2 Ghostie, which actually we'll just talk about right now. This is Jessie the Ghostie. I'm kind of done talking about her for right now. But Jessie the Ghostie is a grade 2. From the drop zone, you can retire 2 units and then call him. Not named. You can't retire Jessie the Ghostie and call Jessie the Ghostie. It doesn't work like that. I don't know why you would, to be honest, but yeah. And then his second ability is really where he's very important. When it attacks, he gets 5,000 power. So with Nightrose or with Beatrice, he's normally a 9k plus 10 because 5 from him and then 5 from both of those two. He would become 19. So he's a 19k attacker that I could just place from hand, which is really good because normally that much power I have to call it from the drop zone. So that's really good. But he retires himself at the end of that battle, and then I countercharge 1 if I haven't countercharged with his ability. And so that's really good because you go Skull Dragon retires himself, and then you go with Beatrice, you call Damien or Jessie the Ghostie, sorry, and then Jessie the Ghostie will retire himself. He'll countercharge 1, and then you can call Damien the Ghostie, which we'll get to a little bit later. But Damien the Ghostie has basically the same second clause that Jessie the Ghostie has. So he retires himself at the end, and then you countercharge if you haven't countercharged before. So that is very good. You can go all the way down to grade 0. Okay, so the next card is for Columbard. Oh, we're playing 2 Jessie the Ghostie because we have ways to get him out very early. Which, here's Columbard, that's one way. And we also have another unit later on that can get any Ghostie unit for free. She's also a Ghostie unit, so I can get her too. And we're playing her at 2 because I just really want to use her as an extender. Or just like a cheaper cost to call something. So that's why she's not the main focus, but if you have to ride her, she's very good. Which is actually playing this a little bit more. There is a Nightrose and Beatrice hybrid, so it's 3 Nightrose and 3 Beatrice. I think that deck would be very cool because just the way that things play, you can switch your playstyle up depending on your matchup, so you can focus more on Nightrose, which would be really good. The deck doesn't re-ride a lot anyway, so but yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. Alright, so Columbard. Columbard is so good. Columbard says, when placed, Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, doesn't matter if it's from your hand or from your drop zone, which is very important. You can counterblast 1, call or search your deck for any card and call it or discard it, put it in the drop zone, and call any card from your drop zone. Does not have to be what you called or what you discarded from your deck. More often than not, it will be, because this is a counterblast 1, search for anything, and then call anything. So it's really good. You can only use it once per turn, the ability once per turn. But he's your main grade 2 ride target. And he is that because you can then call, depending on how you want to play, you can then call Storm Ride Ghost Ship. And we're playing 2 of these because I have ways to call it out from the drop zone, and I can just keep reusing it, so I really only need 2. But this card is really good. It's got the same clause as with Skull Dragon, whereas he can't be normal called. And I like in parentheses on this one, it says, cannot be called to the Guardian Circle either. So that's basically saying you can't normal call it to the Guardian Circle, which I wish they put that clause on Skull Dragon, because I've seen a lot of people do that back when he first came out, but everyone knows now not to do it. Second ability, when it attacks, it gets 15k power. until the end of that battle. At the end of that battle, draw a card and retire this unit. So this is your draw engine, basically. Not only is that, he becomes a 24k because the only way to call him is from the drop zone. So you call him from the drop zone. I like doing, sorry. I like doing Columbard and searching my deck for one of these and then calling them. Or I'll use Columbard to call Jessie, because Jessie would refill the counterblast charge, or the counterblast cost, which is really good. And he'd also be a 19k or a 14k beater. This becomes a 24k beater by himself, but if you're on Nightrose, it becomes a 29k, which is a pretty strong number. So yeah, he's just basically a beater and lets you draw cards, and it's very easy to abuse this card, by the way. Very easy. So we're just gonna set that over there. Alright, the next card is Greed Shade. Greed Shade is how you're discarding your cards, like Skull Dragon and Ghost Ship, Storm Red Ghost Ship. Also, he gets a little extra power, which we'll get to in a second. But his ability is when placed from hand or from drop zone, only on the rearguard circle, though. That's very important. You can't ride him and do his effect, which I don't understand why I couldn't. It doesn't make any sense to me. Whatever. Discard a card from your hand and put mill 2, and then grab any card from your drop zone and add it back to your hand. So, there's a pretty popular combo that you can do. So this literally can grab you heals, it can grab you perfect guards, crits, whatever you need to guard. It can also get you key pieces, such as, let's say I started my opening hand, I didn't have any Nightrose. I ride Columbard. I use Columbard's ability to mill Nightrose to discard it. Alright, and then I'll call a Greed Shade, and Greed Shade says, I discard a card and then mill 2, and then I can grab anything that I want back. So I can go ahead and I can grab Nightrose back. I've done that quite a bit. It's quite good. The only downside is I have to discard a card, and sometimes you don't want to discard cards as often, which is why I'm okay playing it at 3, because if I need it to get it back, I can just call it again. Also, I needed to make space for another Jessie the Ghostie. So most people I see play this at 4. I just unfortunately did not have that luxury. Okay, so a change from what happened before when we get to the grade 1s is I never ran Tommy the Ghostie Brothers because I didn't think I needed it. I had these two to get Nightrose if I needed it to. I could also go through my deck pretty quickly and grab Nightrose if I hadn't got there. But I'm playing Tommy the Ghostie Brothers now because he is a Ghostie, okay? And I can also use his ability to check the top 5, look for a grade 3, find a Skull Dragon, and immediately discard the Skull Dragon. So that's a little bit of filtering and deck thinning, which is really good. Also, I could just discard a Beatrice or Nightrose. I don't actually often get a card with Tommy the Ghostie Brothers, which is really weird. I just use him as a beater or as a way to filter through my deck a little quicker. So that's actually kind of funny. His +5 ability is Vanguard to Rearguard. If I have 5 more cards in the drop zone, which I'm playing Grand Blue, I have more than 10 on my grade 3 turn, basically. So he's always going to be with Nightrose and with Beatrice. He'll always be an 18k attacker or booster. So he's very good. I'm playing 3. 3, I don't know if is the right number, honestly. I might bump it down to 2, but right now, 3's been working pretty well. Because worst case scenario, it's a 10k shield. Or actually, on Beatrice, it's a 15k shield. So things could be worse. All right, next is Damien the Ghostie. Oh, we're playing 2 of those because Damien the Ghostie on place from hand. This is specifically from hand. Search your deck for any Ghostie in its card name. It doesn't have to be a normal unit, so you can call a trigger, which we'll get there in a second. Go ahead and do that, and you can put it into your drop zone, and then shuffle your deck. So I can get Beatrice in the drop zone early. I can get Jessie in the drop zone early. I could even get Tommy the Ghostie Brothers in the drop zone early. Or I can get my trigger in the drop zone early. Spoiler alert. We'll get there. But his second ability, like I said, is very similar to Jessie, whereas he doesn't get any extra power, and he can only use his ability if you're on a Ghostie Vanguard. So At the end of the battle attack, if you have a Vanguard with Ghostie in its card name, which is this one, this actually you can do a grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3, just depending on your lineup, whatever. Then you could retire this unit and then countercharge if you haven't already countercharged this ability. You don't normally use the countercharge for this. I'm just using him to clear out my deck. My God, I need some hydration real quick. Sorry. Jesus. All right, so I don't normally use that second ability. It's just to search my deck a little bit more. Selective mill, any ghost unit, which I have quite a few ghost units. All right. Hi, bud. Hello. How are you? You look a little wet. Were you playing in the water? Ferocious. All right. So let's actually move these guys up a little bit more. So Skeleton Sea Navigator. I'm running it at 2. It's because depending on the matchup, sometimes I don't want to go through my deck as quickly as possible. Just absolutely mill it. Sometimes I want to focus on drawing more. And when that's the case, we have Ripple Banshee. So Ripple Banshee says when played from drop zone, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, and she gets 4k power. Don't care about the 4k. The 4k with Nightrose makes it 17k booster, which is good. I'm not gonna knock that. It's pretty good. Especially if you're attacking with a 23 or well, I guess I don't have 23 because I'm a force, which is stupid. But I'm protect, not force. But it can almost make numbers. Anyway, so yeah, I can Soul Blast 1 and draw. The only problem is I don't have a lot of soul in this deck. I don't build it up as often as I used to. So Beatrice and Ripple Banshee, I kind of had to decide if I want to draw more or if I want to call more. So the problem is that I find is that I barely ever use Ripple Banshee. There'll be a couple times where it's important to me, but more often than not, I'm going to be calling Stormlight Ghost Ship because 29k beater is a lot to deal with. Also, another MVP of this deck. And we're playing 4 Witch Doctor of Powder Bone, Negro Bone. This card is phenomenal. If you don't know what it does, in the drop zone, you can discard a card from your hand, put this on the bottom of the deck, call a grade 1 to the rear guard circle, but if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, which I'm playing Grand Blue, and if I use this once, maybe twice, I'm there, then I can call anything. So, this guy is basically used at the end. When I'm about to go for my win, I can use his ability and get 2 Skull Dragons out, and then Nightrose can attack, and then the Skull Dragons will retire, and then I have ways to get 2 more Skull Dragons out. So it's a 4 Skull Dragon swing, and they're swinging for 60 something basically. So there's a lot that can happen with that. That card is phenomenal. I can also because it lets me discard a card, I can get things like Ghost Ship and Skull Dragon into the drop zone, or I can even get a Jessie into the drop zone if I wanted to call it later. There's a lot I can do with that, which is very good. We're going to run through the triggers real quick because there's nothing too special about them. We're playing the 2-2 split for the draw PGs and the Crit Sentinels because Crit Sentinels are 30k shields, and that's actually very good in Grand Blue because I can reuse them with Greed Shade. Greed Shade can call them back. We are playing draw triggers, which Grand Blue didn't used to play draw triggers, basically, until Nightrose. But we don't re-ride very often, so we're using that protect marker up pretty quickly, and just having a way to call back a Sentinel, or to add back a perfect card is very good. So we're playing those. And then we're just playing, I think it's 8 crit. I don't know why I have it like this, but I do. And then we're playing, this is the secret spice that's not exactly secret, nor is it spicy. But Rick the Ghostie, because he's a ghostie. Yes, Rick the Ghostie is a ghostie. And that only matters because of Beatrice. So actually, let's break it. Let's get into it. I'm going to talk about the Beatrice combo first, and then I'll elaborate on the 4 Skull Dragon swing after that, and that's pretty. I can also do. Yeah, we'll also do an early, like a grade 2 turn. Your key grade 2 turn is what we're looking for. So we'll do that. First off, let's talk about the grade 2. So, what you ride Columbard on top of a grade 1. So you search your deck, and depending on your matchup, right, you can go many different ways. If you want to immediately get you can immediately get the Skeleton Sea Navigator. I think that's a little bit of a waste of value, personally, but you could do it, get it, and then throw another card down from your hand, rest them into middle 5. Possible. Not my favorite play, though, so I'm not going to endorse that one too much. But what I really like is I can search my deck for, depending on what my hand looks like, I can go for Jessie the Ghostie. Because it costs a counterblast from Columbard, I can then call Jessie the Ghostie, and now I have a 14k attacker that can just attack a rearguard, depending if I go first or second, or I can, poke. I can do that, and then I can countercharge one. So immediately I refund the cost, which is actually very important, because a way to play against Nightrose is to deny me counterblast. So if I've already, beforehand, I would spend it on Columbard, and I would have a face-down counterblast like that. And then going into Nightrose, the opponent just didn't attack me. I would go to Nightrose, and I used to play Dancing Cutlass, but I don't play Dancing Cutlass anymore. So I had no way of countercharging. But no matter what, I have a countercharge in here during the battle phase. So it's pretty good. Because I could, on Nightrose, I could attack, use all my counterblasts, attack with Jessie the Ghostie, retire him, countercharge one, and now Nightrose, her attack is open. So it's very, very possible and something to keep in mind. So we could do that. Another thing that we could do is if I just want to get raw card advantage, I can go into Stormite Ghost Ship. I can call a Stormite Ghost Ship out, and then I could attack for 24k, which no one really wants to guard that going on grade 2 turn, because they would have to throw down a 20k guard if they're at a 9k, or 15 if they're at 10k. Not a lot of people want to throw down a crit or a front, or I guess at this point a heal in Overdress now. So that's really good. It's basically kind of either taking a high shield out of their hand early, or they're taking a guaranteed damage, and you get to draw a card, which I find very good. And then it's already in the drop zone, so then when I go into Nightrose later on, I can just keep reusing it to build up my hand, which is very good. Okay, so that is one combination. The next one, which is my favorite, honestly, is going to be Beatrice. And we're gonna work with one counterblast, basically. So first things first, let's say we ride Beatrice from hand. Right, we use her ability to Soul Blast 1, and then we'll call a card. And what we're going to call is going to be Skull Dragon, or we're going to do Stormite Ghost Ship, because that kind of starts the chain. So we'll do that, and then, we'll call whatever else we want. The thing to keep in mind with Beatrice is basically only focus on one column. So also, more often than not, if you're going to be in Beatrice, I would recommend Protect 2. Because if you go Protect 1, it's fine. You're just missing out on a little extra power and a little extra defense. Actually, a lot of extra defense, but it's okay. This deck is actually pretty defensive to begin with. Alright, so, and then Skull Dragon attacks for whatever +5 from Protect 2. Then he retires. Okay. And then Beatrice says, hey, actually, wait. Counterblast 1, and we'll call a grade 2 Ghostie out. And we're going to go for Jessie. Okay. And then Jessie says, I can attack for 5, 5, and 5, making that 24. 9 plus 15 is 24. Go ahead, attacks, and then he retires himself, and then I countercharge 1. But then Beatrice says counterblast 1, and then we'll call a grade 1 Ghostie. So then we'll go into Damien the Ghostie. And then Damien the Ghostie will attack. He'll get an extra 5k from Beatrice, and then Protect 2, so making him an 18k. A little weaker, but I can still attack a rear guard. So that's pretty good. And then he retires himself because you have a Ghostie Vanguard, I can countercharge 1. And then Beatrice saw someone retire due to an effect. So then she counterblast 1. And then we call a grade 0 Ghostie. So then we call Rick the Ghostie. You can play Chappie the Ghostie. I love Chappie the Ghostie, the V-Series one. He just becomes an extra beater and also a bit of a thicker shield as well. So that's also a thing you could do. But we're going to go Rick the Ghostie because I'm already playing heals, and Rick the Ghostie works pretty well. So then, if I want to, I can attack, and this becomes a 15k attacker. But also, because Beatrice grants Intercept, this is Protect 2 gives plus 10. So plus 10 plus 20 is going to be 30, and she gives an extra 5k shield as well. So it's actually a 35 Interceptor, which is quite good. So that is never the interaction I have with those two. It's always...
She does that, but it's like never like hackles up. It's always, I think, just to like play.
She absolutely has hackles up every time. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, fine. No, not weekly. I'm doing a deck profile. I'm redoing it because I figured out what was wrong with it. But anyway. Oh, okay. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine. Yeah. I don't remember where I started or stopped. But this now is a chonky Interceptor. It doesn't matter against any retired clan or bind clan. You can definitely go into this and it helps out a lot. So it's a possibility. Also, again, if you don't go into Protect 2, this just is a 25k Interceptor, which is fine. It's totally fine. And it's also a 25k just guard from your hand too, which is really good too. Alright. And then the last and probably the most potent play here. Let's see. Alright. You gotta have Nightrose and at least one soul. So we're just using Jessie as the soul. Okay, and let's say theoretically you drop some your Skull Dragons, not your Skull Dragons, your Negro Bones here. We'll just say that you pay for both of them, you put them in the bottom of your deck, blah blah blah. I really only recommend doing this when your deck is pretty thin, and you're sure that most of it are triggers, because that's really what makes things devastating. But you do that, and then each of those Negro Bones is going to call a Skull Dragon. We also need to have one face-up Counterblast. 2 face-up Counterblast, actually. Alright. And so, boom. You can swing with this, retires himself. Swing with this, retires himself. Alright. And now we have 2 avenues of play we can go through with Nightrose. So Nightrose can Counterblast 1, call a column. So generally you're going to call 1 Skull Dragon, and then this is where things get a little interesting. So you have a choice of calling either Beatrice or Columbard. They literally do the same thing, except one costs a Counterblast and one costs a Soul Blast. So it's literally wherever you are. More often than not, I'm going to go Soul Blast, but if I have no Soul Blast and I have an excess amount of Counterblast, then I'll do Counterblast. But we're going to do Beatrice to show you kind of how things work. So then Beatrice, I Soul Blast 1, and then I call another Skull Dragon. Okay, and then Nightrose, more often than not, is going to be swinging for 23k by herself. You could have, let's say, a, wherever is Tommy the Ghostie Brothers can boost, which I actually do fairly often, making that 18 plus 22, making that 40. Then he retires, and then you can boop, retire, boop, retire. There you go. And now, now you got some stuff to do. And if you needed countercharge, you could call Jessie the Ghostie, and he would countercharge instead of that second Skull Dragon. Or if you wanted more cards in hand, you can go for the Ghost Ship, because he'll let you draw, which I don't know where I put it, but he'll basically let you draw. Yeah, he'll let you draw. What you also could do, if it's early enough in the game and you've got both Ghost Ships, you can call them both out, and then you can go ahead and do that, and you can draw a lot. So the key thing when playing against Nightrose, though, is when they're going into grade 2, don't give them any counterblast. So the least amount of counterblast you give them, the better off you're going to be. the deck is it's not impossible to play around. You just need to know how it works. So, and the best way to know how it works is to play it. My favorite thing about the Nightrose deck, though, is how versatile it is. Depending on what I'm going up against, I can switch my playstyle. There's about three main playstyles. There's the aggro mill, focusing on Skull Dragon over and over and over again. You use your navigators to mill 5, and then you get your deck as low as possible, as fast as possible, and just keep swinging with your ghost ships. It's super aggro. I will almost never do that. My favorite playstyle is sitting back, chilling on Storm Red Ghost ships, calling them as often as possible to drawing as much as I can, because how I build my drop zone in Nightrose is I will more often than not just draw as much as I can and then use my guarding as ways to get things into the drop zone. Obviously, not all matchups allow that, but that's my best bet against a lot of Axel games is to do that. And then there's also, if you can't get Nightrose, but you do have Beatrice, you can switch the deck basically to only focus on the Beatrice ride line, basically. Not ride line, but, plays, and still be pretty potent. So that's really good. I can't say any more good things about the deck, except it's my favorite deck in V-Series. Honestly, almost entire Vanguard. But the OG Nightrose is still definitely, like during G era, like the height. That was my favorite deck of any card game that I've ever played. So, this is a pretty close second, honestly. It still keeps a lot of Nightrose's flavor with the G era and all the multi-attacking. Less guarding shenanigans, although with Beatrice, I still have some guarding shenanigans I could do. So yeah, without further ado, let me know if you like this deck, if you want to play it. I highly recommend it. It's some of the most fun I've ever played, some of the most fun I've ever had playing Vanguard is with this deck. And yeah, if you got any other suggestions for deck profiles, I have one, two. I have a lot of decks and profiles to make if you guys are interested. This is how I play Nightrose. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, the comments. I almost said the DMs, but no, the comments. Comments are open, so please give me some feedback. I'd love to hear it. If you liked how blingy it is, let me know. It's also the only bling I'm gonna have. It's with Grand Blue. So, yeah, I got stuff to do today. I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.